helped to organize a nice retirement. So he had clients from around the country. They came in and they got up and they talked a little bit about 40 years of business with my dad, and it was a great meal, and I got to get up and share a little bit. And, I was proud that day. I was proud. I was proud to get up and talk about my dad. And where's the Kleenex? I was proud to just, and I was grateful to be a part of it. What just an enjoyable event. And I got invited. I was on the list. And that was so neat for me. I've had other opportunities. When I was teaching, I got to take a trip to the Air Force Academy and to literally do astronaut training. I got to do cool things that astronauts do. In the school district, they sent me, and then they sent me to space camp where I chaperoned some kids' trips and taught kids, and again, did more astronaut training. And I got to be a vice principal for a couple of years at summer school. I just felt honored. I felt good that they invited me into those things. Like, hey, Rick, would you like to be a part of this? In fact, I got to do some interviews. They needed one teacher out of a district that had 20 schools. So we're talking about thousands of teachers. They needed one person to do some television interviews with astronauts who walked on the moon. And somehow they picked me. And I felt honored. I was excited. I felt privileged to have that invitation. And I can keep going down the list. I've been offered jobs to be a head coach of football teams and baseball teams and basketball teams. And I felt honored to have that invitation. I was in Guatemala with many of you where Greg helped to coordinate a trip, and there were 20 or 25 of us that went down to Guatemala. And Pastor John, he said, hey Rick, listen, I think God's moving in you. I think something's happening. I've been asked to preach at a church tonight in town, and it's a Spanish-speaking church, but how about you do it? Why don't you preach? And I got to go and preach in another country, to another people in another language, and share the gospel through a translation. I felt honored. I felt privileged that Pastor John would give me that opportunity. And I've had the great privilege to be asked to be a youth leader here at this church. To literally work with people's treasures, with their most prized possessions, their children, and to have the right to pour into them, and to teach them about Jesus, and to love them, and to train them. And my goodness, what a blessing to be invited into that. And not the least of which is to say that I've had the great privilege now to be asked to be your pastor, to be invited to be your pastor. Pastor Bob, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for leaving. No, thank you for pouring into me and giving me opportunities. And so I now have this opportunity. I feel privileged. You say, well, are we celebrating you today, Rick? No, but I can only share my experiences. They're all I have. They're all I have. And I'm grateful for these opportunities. I'm grateful for these privileges. And church, I just want to end with this today. Grace Fellowship Church, please hear this. You and I, as followers of Jesus Christ, we have an unbelievable and awesome privilege of taking the gospel to the world. It is not a mere responsibility, it is a privilege. It is an invitation, something into which you and I have been invited to take the gospel and present it to the world for the glory of God, for the advancement of His kingdom, that His will might be done, and that you and I get to participate. So church, let's embrace the invitation. Let's relish this opportunity. Let's do it, Grace. For we are the church.